Hi everyone. So today I want to talk about some a game that was a part of my life for a long time, even longer than Groove Coaster and any other game that I've played that I've shown here that I've just kind of forgotten about. Not intentionally, it's just something I really haven't thought of anymore since I kind of just grown up, to put it in a sense that way. But so we'll be getting into that. I originally wanted to talk about this yesterday, set up a have my own make my video on this topic, but something came up and it prevented me to do this exact scenario. But here I am now, and of course I have no script because none of my videos with commentary do. And to be honest, I do kind of like having no script because I feel like with a script, it doesn't really convey my actual feelings about certain things. And talking about it just out of my mind just makes it feel like I'm getting it all out the way. Like I don't want to have to read something and it makes it seem like I'm I don't actually feel that way, but in actuality I do. So yeah, so for these future videos with this stuff, I will just be going reading out. I will just be doing this stuff on the top of my head since that's kind of what I'm good at. So yeah, let's get started with this video. So as y'all know, I am a rhythm gamer. I've I try out rhythm games. I stick to some rhythm games, and to be honest, most of the rhythm games I have tried and played, they don't stick with me long enough to where I like to grind it to get better at it. However, there is this one game that just I just been with me for the past couple of years of my life. If I'm being honest, it's probably over 10 years by now. That isn't to say that this was the first rhythm game I played. This is probably the second rhythm game I played, but that's a different story. So now to put it out there, the game that I want to talk about that I've left behind in my past accidentally is Project Diva. So yeah, I'm sure many of you who have been with me for a long time on YouTube know that I was a Project Diva player. And I I do like I still do like playing this game and the game in general. I love the series, but for some reason I just all of a sudden left that behind me. And in this video I'll get into why I stopped and all that, but before we get into that, let's talk about my history of how I stumbled upon Project Diva and how it's been with me for those couple of years that I've been playing. So, to go back, like all the way back to, I want to say 2013. In 2013, I was still in my DDR phase to where I love seeing other people play and getting perfect scores. There was this one person on YouTube who I used to watch a lot, and they still play DDR. Yeah, they still play DDR from last time I checked. And back then, one of the games that he had played on the side was Project Diva. I didn't know what that was. It was just a game that he wanted to play. play, as I guess it's just more of a side, and he he liked he liked the game, and I just respected him for that. Even as a child, it didn't matter to what he played. That's his own doing. Now, when I was watching that stuff, I did not know what Vocaloid was or any of that, but I did see some gameplay of it, and I was amazed, but I wasn't too amazed to where I wanted to try that game, especially since I didn't have that console back then, since it was stated it was on the PS3. So, I after watching a few gameplay, I kind of just stopped watching the Project Diva plays and just focused more on what I was interested into at the time. I Around the time when I was watching them, I just kind of stopped being interested in rhythm games as a whole, even though DDR was like the only rhythm game I played at the time. I played upon other things, a lot of fighting games to say the least. But back in my 8th grade, that's 2015, I think. 2016. No, it's 2015. Um, I remembered I was trying to, I was really just trying to find a different game to play because I was getting bored with all the other games I was playing back then. And then I remember watching remember what the guy that I used to watch who played DDR. I still remember the other game that he played on the side, Project Diva. So I decided to look more into that game, and I was like, okay. And then, but before I started playing Project Diva, I started actually getting into Vocaloid. If I'm recalling correctly, the first Vocaloid song I've ever listened to was Secret Police. That song, even till this day, is a classic. So yeah, because of the one song, I really got it. That's when I was like really into my Vocaloid phase, and then now that I remembered what that was, now that I remembered knowing that what Vocaloid was at the time, just Miku. That's when Project Diva came to my mind. It didn't hit me at first, but I I remember that I've seen the character in that game, and of course it was based off of her. So at the time, I just decided to look more into Project Diva gameplay, and as confusing as it looked, I was still invested. I looked upon like other people playing. I don't remember who specifically. I'm sure one of those might have been Hisoki. But yeah, I got interested in that, and then I was like, okay, I'm definitely gonna get this game someday. So going a bit forward, a couple months from what I was talking about, my nephew had talked to me about this arcade, and it was, of course, being like the only Japanese arcade game in the U.S. It's round one, like that's popular. He told me about how they had the game that I mentioned, Project Diva. That caught me by surprise because I didn't even know there was an arcade version. So one day we decided to go there to just look at the games and stuff. I played Project Diva for the first time, and yeah, even with that control scheme, the four buttons and the sliders, it was fun. I actually liked it. I did know some of the songs, of course, just a few, not a lot. And then that's when I got really invested. It's because of the arcade version. And believe it or not, that actually was the first Project Diva I played, but it's not. It wasn't a game that I like fully grinded in. So after that revelation, a couple of days later, I decided to finally try Project Diva. I saw it in store, GameStop, one day, and decided to buy it. I played. Of course, I had hooked up my PS3. Oh, sorry. To finish it, the game that I bought was F second. At the time, F wasn't even in stock, so F second was the only option I had at the time. So I bought F second, played on a PS3, and yeah, let's just say my first actual experience with Project Kiva was a mess. Even with even in a normal, I mean, I know this is just speaking in like first experience, but I really did suck. Even normal, I was really having trouble with one song that I couldn't clear like two times. I was failing like two times until I finally got to clear. I do remember what song it is, but I'm not gonna mention it because it's kind of embarrassing looking back at it. But yeah, I was still I was still into the game. I played through the whole thing, played all the harder difficulties, that the time just being hard and extreme. And even then I don't know how long between like when I first bought the game and then when I perfected the last song in the game. I don't know what the time span of that was at like, but I know I was grinding the hell out of that game. I was I was really into it. I wanted to get all the perfects on the hardest difficulty, and eventually I did. That was like one of my greatest accomplishments back then. What made it hard for me to do all of that though wasn't just of the patterns. I mean, eventually I was gonna get the patterns. It was just taking my time. But one of the most tedious things that I had to deal with playing that game was the freaking star notes. I, for some reason, my joysticks were really busted on the DS3 um, controller, and anytime I would use the joysticks, it would just double input out of nowhere. And believe it or not, those gave me safes on stars, and that just made me that keep. I was just getting really frustrated at that. But if you take that aside, I found alternative ways to play. I still had fun with this game. I feel there was a lot of roadblocks I had. I struggled on a lot of. Of course, I struggled on the 10 stars, it being Intense Voice and 2D Dream Fever. Um, I also did have trouble with like other songs that were that was deemed as hard in F second. I mean, can you blame me? I was still in high school learning about the game. But eventually I got through all of it. I was so happy to actually accomplish something that, I mean, even then I kind of expected to accomplish it. I just didn't know how long it'd take. So when I finally did that, I looked at more stuff online about Project Diva, and of course, I missed out on F. The first, well, not first, I guess the prequel to F second, you can say. So one day I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go get that game now because I already did F second. I want to try more songs. Well, and as much as even from now, like I remember just the game being easy for some reason. Like none of the songs gave me as much trouble, of course, except for the 10 stars. But well, maybe okay, I'm exaggerating like that. There was at least three songs I was struggling with. Um, but yeah, playing F second, it felt like I was just going through them fast because I already learned so much from F second that it just translated to F, of course. Um, so, believe it or not, when I played F, I none of the 10 stars were the ones I was struggling with. The one song I was really struggling with at the time was "Unhappy Refrain" because the spams were just like it wasn't annoying. It was just hard for me to process because I was just going too fast, and of course it was messing up my game. But eventually I got it. I was just telling myself to like cool it with it, and eventually I got it. That was honestly the last song I had to perfect an F. Now, when it comes to the DLC songs for both F and F second, to be honest, I wasn't interested in at all with the DLCs, especially since I didn't have any money. But one of those days, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go play them. It don't matter. But for F, I didn't have the Japanese version, of course. So when I didn't even know it had it had an exclusive DLC. So I didn't really care too much about it since it was in a whole region, and I didn't feel like making another account at the time to play it. And of course, I didn't have the Japanese version of the game, and I didn't want to buy the Japanese versions of the game at the time. So yeah. So with that being said, F was also a fun game. I liked the songs on there. Some of them, ugh, some of them good. The charts were definitely fun from what I remember. I had a great time. But that and F second. As struggling as F second was with some of those charts, it was still fun because Project Diva was something I just was dedicated to playing at the time. So now we move on to ETS. ETS, well, I mean, when ETS came out in like Japan first, of course I was totally invested in it, but the problem was I I didn't have a PS Vita when it came out for that on that platform first, and I didn't have a Japanese account, of course. I couldn't buy it. So I was just stuck to watching other people play as usual when it comes to stuff like that. Um, I do remember seeing a lot of people saying that Project X really did suck. I mean, don't get me wrong, it kind of does, but I still love the game. Like, yeah, I see that it was mainly focused on Miku, so yeah, it was definitely gonna make some people like forget about the game. But between this time span of Ets being released and Future Tone, I never played Ets. I never played Ets because of course I never had accessibility. So when I knew Ets was gonna come in the PS4 version, but I was like later. But when Future Tone came out for the PS4, it being an arcade port. To be honest, I was surprised. I didn't think that was actually possible. Even as a child, I was like, "Wow, that must be like a new Project Diva game, I guess." But they're translating arcade to the PS4 version, and I didn't even know how that was gonna work out. But but as with S, I didn't have I didn't have any accessibility with the game, and I didn't even have a PS4. So that I was just stuck with watching gameplay. To be honest, I didn't remember who I was watching specifically for Future Tone. Probably Hisoki, like I said. Maybe Stoic. I know Stoic was playing a lot more. Um, oh yeah, one thing I do want to mention that I totally forgot were edits in F2nd. To be honest, I wasn't into much edits at the time because I don't know. I had this like really kind of gripe with custom charts to where I don't want to play those. It's not that the custom charts are bad, even though there are some that are bad. It's just custom stuff aren't really my thing. I'm just more into like things that are official. That's just a me issue. So it's definitely I will play custom charts every once in a while in Project Diva, but for the most part, I stick to anything official. Anyways, so about a month or two later after Future Tone came out, I I saw that because a Vita was still expensive, I saw that the Vita TV was in stock at one of my GameStops. So I was like, ooh, what if I just bought that to play Diva X? And it I actually worked out in my favor because we were going down that way to buy it. I mean, not to for something, and I just decided to go to GameStop. I bought it, and I bought Project Diva X. So yeah, I was I hooked it up, and yeah, even though it wasn't the authentic way to play that game, I was playing Project Diva X now. I I I did have fun playing those charts for the first time. I kind of already knew like what to expect since I was looking at all the charts like it was my job. So I played. I I grinded to unlock all the songs for who knows how long. I got the perfect. I know Ultimate Medley or Ending Medley was the one I was struggling with the most. Even Amazing Dolce, but we won't get into those. Those are just like a breeze. Yeah, so I was really mainly focused on getting the perfects instead of grinding like the story mode. And that is when I got to see like how this game actually that people were right about this game kind of sucking because there was just a lot to grind, like very unnecessary. Well, not unnecessary, but it was just very. I was just getting very impatient with this game. It also doesn't help that because I had the Vita TV, controller would just lag very bad. So, with S, maybe a month later, I remember that my cousin had his PS4 with him, and I asked if I could like play it for a bit, and he said yeah. So that's when I had the bright idea to buy Project Diva S for the PS4 because, of course, the graphics were like way better than the Vita version. So I bought it. I was amazed to see how clear it was. So I was playing that for a while, trying to improve on my scores because I know even at the time I was kind of like worrying about getting less amount of fines. So I was playing that, but what I was also doing on the side was grinding for trophies. That was honestly the most tedious part of playing a game. That was like the first. That I think that was the first game I actually platinumed on my account because, to be honest, I wasn't really a PlayStation person, so I didn't really care about hunting trophies. Yeah, Project Diva S was actually my first platinum. I was happy to have that platinum, but because I was like kind of quote unquote grown up, I didn't really care too much about it. I was just glad to have achieved something. That's it. I was pretty much done with S, and especially with my cousin taking the PS4 away because I think he sold it to somebody or something, or he probably just took it back just because. Um, I do remember when Future Tone was still released in Japan. I was just playing the demo. I remember making a Japanese account at the time. I played just the two songs that were released, but I sucked. I didn't really care about it anymore. That's when the English version of Future Tone came out, and I was amazed, like to see actually get it localized. So I I played that for a little bit when I was at my cousin's house, but of course I couldn't play it for long since it was his PS4. I was getting used to it for the most part. I sucked at getting holds and macroing for the most part. I was just really getting the perfects. Like I didn't know a lot about the macros and hold stuff. I was just playing how how people would play Project Diva. So for the next couple of months, I didn't have the game anymore. So all of the Project Diva games I was playing was just out of the question. I didn't feel like playing FNF Second or even ETS for the matter. That is until one day I was surprised to see that I got a that we were getting a PS4, me, my brother to share. I the first thing I of course downloaded was my Project Diva games because I was a sucker for that at the time. And boy, if you know it, I was really grinding a lot on that game, playing my favorite songs and all that, learning throughout the most part. Eventually, I can't remember like when exactly I started getting better, but Future Tone was just the main game I was starting to play, and I was getting better. I was getting better at competing in leaderboard rankings, getting better at like accuracy, getting better at the harder difficulties, harder songs for the matter, and score attacking. I was learning a lot of score attacking at the time too. Even though my holds did suck, I had fun learning new stuff. There was a lot of possibilities to do with that game, and I was glad to have learned about those stuff because if I'm being honest, playing it like regularly was gonna get too repetitive at the time. So I was glad to see like more variety in Future Tone. At the time, I was watching Stoic a lot play this game, and I was really amazed seeing all the achievements he's done, and I'm just like, wow, I wish I could be like him because I sure as hell can't do the stuff he can't do, and even now I can't. So I was still playing Future Tone, the English version, as much as I could. I got all the perfects. I don't know when, but I got that. And then when I saw how like competitive the Japanese leaderboards were, I was like, okay, I'm gonna buy that. I'm gonna play the Japanese version. So when Future Tone DX came out, that's the one with everything all bundled in one with Ghost Rule and Sand Planet. Um, I was playing it, and then I got really lucky with being in the top 10 of the leaderboards because in my 15-year-old mind or 16-year-old mind, I thought that was impossible. But I was glad to be up there with some of the top players, and yeah, I was just grinding it from there, doing whatever I couldn't do to get up there. Even though I sucked for the most part, it was still fun. I will admit that this game, Future Tone specifically, has um brought out my competitive side because I mean, with a game with leaderboards, you want to aim for the best. So when I learned more score attacks and all that, it was it was fun to say the least. Learning new steps and all that, I felt like I was playing a whole different game. Around maybe a year after after getting the Japanese version, I started taking Future Tone most. I started taking that game more seriously, and I decided to grind out hard to get all cools on all the songs, the highest percentage possible. Well, I exaggerate on that because none of my scores are even the highest percentage I've ever gotten. But with that being said, I was grinding hard. I stuck with one category before going on to the other because I was trying to take my time with the game. So I got into the grind. I was so happy to actually have done something like that because even for hard charts, they were getting on my nerves. Like, you think you do well on one thing, but then all of a sudden you mess up. So, after I did that, I got more into score attacking. I feel like with hard, getting all the hard F Zeros, I think that's when my whole game started to improve. Because as I was like being pushed to the limit, I wanted to get to that percentage no matter how much I try. And I was happy to see like some of those percentages were actually like high enough to like redeem myself into thinking that yeah, anything is possible. So it was fun, and then I got to play at stream like more. I mean, even like between the time of me getting perfects and all the hard F Zeros, I was still getting F Zeros on at stream and extra stream. Yeah, that game really grinded me a lot. And then around the time when I was getting my final F Zeros for hard, Megamix came out. Of course, I didn't have a Switch at the time, and that was during lockdown, so getting a Switch was kind of impossible for me. So I wasn't able to play any of the new Megamix songs at the time, especially Japanese version. I can't afford anything Japanese at the time. I just stuck to Future Tone, did what I could do with that game, and then during lockdown, I got bored of Future Tone for a while, and I was like, I need to play new. I want to try new. I need new content for Project Diva. I'm I'm sick of and tired of playing the same things, and I was kind of like burned out into playing that stuff because I wasn't getting anywhere at some point. So, um, I decided to get from my parents' help. I We were looking for a Switch. I wanted to get a Switch. I wanted to get a Switch at the time. I know it was unfortunate timing, but I needed something new. I needed something new quickly. And even if it resorted to me getting a Switch Lite, I was fine with it. But no, we were hunting for a Switch, but as it turns out, funny story, one of my neighbors were actually selling Switches, and we just bought it off of him. So I picked it up, set it all up. The first game I bought because I was still in that kind of phase was Project Eva Megamix, the English version, because at the time the English version was out, and I didn't feel like making a Japanese account, and I'm pretty sure I did still, but still I didn't have the money to buy anything Japanese related. So when I was introduced to the 10 new songs, I was hearing even before that I was hearing a lot of opinions about certain songs, specifically Oedo and Jitterbug. So when I played it, yeah, I was fumbling so bad, especially playing with Joy Cons for the first time. It was not fun. However, one of the songs that made me use a DS4 to play the game was Teo. For some reason, anytime I would play anytime I would play that song with my Joy-Cons would just stop working. So I had to resort to getting a DS4 and it worked out for the best. Now that we got that out the way, let's talk about Mega Mix for the Switch. Yeah, to say the least, like it's not it's not the best Project Diva game port, whatever. I get that it was trying to introduce to like, I knew that Switch was like a big thing and they were just trying to move on from the PlayStation stuff, but that game running on a Switch was already sucked because I noticed frame drops, input lag. It was kind of a mess, but I'm sure that's just my experience with the game. As for the 10 songs, yeah, it was great that we got new songs, but I kind of figured that Sega was already getting lazy with this game, just re re-importing. Is that the word to use? I guess this game, even though Future Tone already came out, I I know one of the factors as to why they decided to do that was because the Switch was popular, and of course to add new content as such as 10 songs and mix mode, but we'll get into mix mode later. But if just to put it out there, yeah, after playing those 10 songs, my main focus was mix mode. But like I said, I'll talk about more about that later. Then out of nowhere, maybe 2 years later, we get Project Diva Megamix Plus for Steam. That totally caught me off guard because I don't know why Sega decided to do this, but when it was bought for the first when it was shown up for the first time in stores, we have seen that there's most of the songs came back, actually, except 3 songs. Yeah, 3 songs. It sucked, but it was just 3 songs. I know people are a bit nostalgic for that stuff, but at the end of it's not the end of the world. Mega Mix Plus came out. That was a big thing for a while in the Diva community. And yeah, from there, some people are still playing that game, of course, because of how it has gone popular within that community. So I am glad to see that the game is still running in some way, but unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that's the last Diva game we're getting, because it's been a while. Unless Sega decides to shadow drop that game somewhere else. But for right now, it's the end of Project Diva. So yeah, and speaking of Project Diva Mega Mix Plus, I have played it first, but my laptop couldn't run at the time. So when I got a PC, I of course played it for a bit. Now, now that we got my backstory of Diva out the way, the next question I would now answer is, why did I stop? Why did I stop playing Project Diva? Well, as I've mentioned it before with Future Tone, it just got repetitive. Yeah, there were custom stuff that you can look into, and um, and all that other stuff that the modding community does to help out Project Diva. Well, help out in a certain way. I It was just too much. I was getting burned out. with the game in general. It's not that I wasn't having fun with the game. It is just anytime I would play a song, I would stop after 5 minutes. That wasn't to say that the game just bored me. It was just I needed something else to do with my life. And don't get me wrong, I still love Project Diva. It's just when you play a game for so long, you of course you eventually get tired of it. You want to take those little breaks to focus on other things, and eventually it'll come back to you. With when Megamix came out, to be honest, I was still only grinding the vanilla stuff because I wanted to get some stuff out the way, and my dumb mind for some reason wanted to be like, hey, let's go for Heart of Zeros again, and within a week I got it all because I was just running through it quickly, and for some and playing on PC just felt so much better. That isn't to say Future Tone was worse. It has its quirks, but at the same time, I like Future Tone. Now, this this is only one of the factors on why I stopped, but the other reason why I did stop playing Project Diva, this one specifically, Megamix Plus, my PC just decided it can't run it anymore. No matter how many times I load it up, it just wouldn't run correctly. It would load songs very slow now, and of course, I'm sure everybody else has this problem, but the lag was just crazier than before, and that just killed my vibe for this game. Last time, I don't remember the last time I played that game, but I just know it's been a while, and I haven't played since. I would love to get back to it. I just need a better PC. I know my graphics card is the issue here, but my PC is already outdated as it is, so even if I change out the graphics card, it still wouldn't run well if I remember. So yeah, like I kind of did leave this game past me because I did want to try other things. I did get burned out, and more importantly for Mega Mix Plus, my PC was just trash. I I'd love to play again. And yes, like to answer that question, because I kind of already answered it without asking, would I want to go back? Of course I would want to go back because even if this game just kept getting repetitive over and over, I still love Project Diva as it's been a part of my life for 10 years. I can't say that a lot to some other games because, well, those games just didn't really last long. And one of the ongoing games I, of course, still have in my life is Groove Coaster, and I've been playing that game for 7 years when YY Party came out. 6 or 7 years. Um, but yeah, I would love to get back into Project Diva, but my computer says otherwise. However, I did make a plan to start streaming me perfecting songs in the Dream Eater games because, as it turns out, I have never completed the Dream Eater games. It's more so because I never really cared for that part of the game, but now looking back into it, I feel like I never experienced that part of Project Diva, even though it's pretty much the same. Now, one may argue and say I should try to go get the perfects on the PSP version, but unfortunately, I don't have a PSP, and I wouldn't want to invest in it yet since I'm dealing with other stuff. Even if I wanted to, I wouldn't be able to like record myself playing or anything. So putting some thought into it, I want to look back into when Project Diva was at its peak in terms of this one is really mainly only focused on Future Tone and Mega Mixes. So bear with me. I may go a bit off topic, but it is kind of related to Project Diva. So when Project Diva was at its peak, to where a whole bunch of players were gathering, I remember this specifically to where the first the one thing that I did see back then when it came to Future Tone were duels. Duels had became a thing between top players, and of course one of the first people who I've seen do that was Hisoki, and I love seeing him and some other players go up against him, and of course he would get beaten by those players. So yeah, I I want it's not that I want to participate in those kinds of duels. It's just I love seeing uh people people like meet up to do that kind of stuff. It was fun seeing different players from different parts of the world like come together and do all that. So, and if you put the duels aside, when players coming together, what I mean is like I guess I guess Discord was a thing back then, but at the time I didn't have it. So when a whole bunch of the top players came out together, it was really fun to see. Now, I don't have too much else to say. I do think that duels were fun, but let's talk about like the player base. I was not big into communities. To be completely honest, Project Diva, like specifically in Discord servers, those weren't the first communities I actually joined. Believe it or not, the first community I ever joined that was Project Diva related was in a certain app that got shut down recently. Be- the I would like to say that I did have I did have a fun time using that app since I was a teenager and wanted to like form and I wanted to like meet up other players. But that kind of died down when I started getting at the end of when I started and my senior year of high school. Luckily, I deleted my account in like all ways because how the app was like way after I completed high school, it really went downhill. And I heard recently it shut down, so I guess that's good. But yeah, that was the first community I saw. Um, yeah, but then when I was watching a person on Twitch, streaming that game, me and this other person were talking, and the other dude has recognized me on the leaderboards, and he asked me if I wanted to join this Discord to talk to other players. I was like, yeah. I mean, I instantly installed Discord for the first time, made an account, and yeah, I got to meet players such as the guy in question, Stoic, anybody else who was on the leaderboards. I was so surprised to see them, and they did give me a warm welcome. As introverted as I was, I enjoyed talking to them, and I hope if they ever decide to see this video, I hope we can talk again. I I do I am in Stoic server, but we we haven't been able to kept in touch. We keep in touch. But yeah, that was like that was the second server I was in, and then I started joining more Project Diva servers when I was like, I guess I was just more, I guess I was just more out there now, because as it turns out, people do have similar interests, and I was just afraid to talk to them. So yeah, love I love meeting them. Some people were nice, some people were weird, but yeah. Um, so let's talk about how the player base is now. But before we get into that, I want to talk about like why I left those communities. This does kind of relate to the player base now, but one of the reasons why I did leave the Project Diva communities is because one, I just wasn't feeling Project Diva at the time, and I just dropped out of everything. And two, that's when both the game and the player base just kind of fell off. That isn't to say some players in that certain fan base were like bad people or anything like that. It's just it had gotten to the point where Project Diva just lost its touch. Like none of the top players I've hung out with were communicating with each other anymore. I just felt like everything fell apart when in this certain Discord server. I just felt like nobody was doing anything Project Diva related. And even I wasn't like that, but still, I was getting I was getting really bored of having to see people like talk about other things rather than Project Diva. So when that died down, I decided to just drop my existence from those communities. I do still talk to some of them now. I have explained like the whole situation with why I left certain servers and all that. But after that, we haven't talked as much. Um, so yeah, I I would say like because of when Megamix came out, that's when like everything just didn't feel the same. I did like it when um I was seeing like people improve and even the top players improving on more things that they decided to work on. But when all that died down and all the people I used to talk to just moved on to other things, that's when I decided to just move on too. It it, it kind of got depressing, not gonna lie. But yeah, I just decided to leave the servers I was in, talk to the only people that like actually been in my life and who I could like actually talk to in like terms of like relation, because I remember me and this other player was just dealing with a lot of like depression at the time, and we were able to just talk through it because yeah, like I've never seen this said person, who I shall not name because privacy reasons, of course, who I shall not name, deal with some of the stuff that he had to do. And especially when he was a good player, a certain person was just like pushing them. So even when I was seeing that on the side, I still knew it was wrong for them to do so. But for some reason, they thought of this person's depression as a joke, and that's when they had enough and decided to leave leave on bad terms with that person because I completely understand why they left, because for someone who's good at what he does, he sure gets he sure gets talked shit on for no reason. And as much as I wanted to like talk back to that person who said those things, I just couldn't, because I wasn't seen as a person who would just blow up, and I didn't want to stir too much drama into all this. So eventually I decided to just leave as well, and I never talked to the person that I used to talk. I did used to talk to them too, but I never talked to them ever since. I still talk to the other the person I was talk that was more the victim in this situation more, because we were getting kind of like in our moods. But yeah, if we take that aside, sorry I got off topic. Yeah, the fan base, even then, it wasn't. They weren't feeling like they were like it wasn't feeling like Project Diva anymore, where people were gather up, share their scores. People moved on to other things. Yeah, so yeah, with all the drama I had to like witness and deal with, and then all the other stuff that's happening, that's why I left. I just didn't want to deal with that anymore, and I and just decided to like drop my existence off. I do still talk to some of them now. It's just very rarely. But yeah, I'm glad that some of these people have decided to move on, because a game like that wasn't going to stick with them forever, I I totally respect their decisions. So, yeah. Uh, Sorry to make this a bit depressing, but I felt like I had to get that out the way. So let's talk about some of the things that people have overlooked in Project Diva, which I feel like this one should have been like talked about in the beginning, but I totally went off topic with some stuff. So let's talk about some of the things that people have missed out in Project Diva. The first thing, there will be two things, but the first thing I'll be talking about is survival courses. In Future Tone, we were introduced to survival courses where you had to press um, the back two buttons of the controller to access them. It was nice to see like more things to like look forward to. Where in survival course, you play a set of songs, and you gotta you want to try to like get a good score on it, like without having like any practice with it. Like you can still take breaks, but you can't practice those charts. You just want to like go through it. Um, I do believe that this mode is underrated, because not a lot of people like know it exists. I can't talk. It exists, and um, yeah, I had my fun playing that mode, and as not to brag, I did get a full. I'm gonna say full combo in this scenario, because when I see that, there's no such thing as a perfect, but a full combo on all the courses, which I was surprised. The 10 star was definitely my greatest accomplishment, because I was really trying to get that one, and I was glad to do so. I did that twice, believe it or not, both in the English version and the Japanese version of Future Tone. Um, so yeah, the for those who have seen survival courses, I would recommend playing those again, because it's fun. It actually really is fun. It's like it's like a real challenge for Project Eva. The next thing I want to talk about that's way too underrated for what it is in Megamits. And for those who know the mode, who opens up the game, is Mits mode. Mixed mode was way too overlooked when it comes to Mega Mix because people people only care about the arcade mode and overlook mix mode. So yeah, mix mode. I'll be honest. The first time I didn't have fun with it because I didn't know what I was doing. Like I don't know what I was doing wrong with my well holding the joysticks a certain way. That is until I saw some hand cam videos and I was like, wow, they're holding it very weird. So I gave that a try. And what do you know? It worked out. I gotten better at mix mode and the timing window is like so wide compared to arcade mode. That isn't to say that the game that mode is easy. It's still hard, but the only reason it's hard because sometimes the timing the timing of a certain note would be so off to where it will catch you off guard, and if you somehow let go of a hold to a slide, I forgot what it's called, a slide hold too early, then yeah, it definitely drops your combo. And then we have the 10 stars and some of the 9s and the 9.5 stars. Some of those charts are way too bullshit, especially in Ten's voice. Like, who thought it was a good idea to make a pattern like that? But yeah, mix mode, as people do say that mode sucks, I feel like they just haven't given it a try. So yeah, I do think mix mode is fun because that's what makes Megamix exclusive, bad as as bad as Megamix itself is. I do think y'all should try mix mode because that gives you more variety in the Project Diva series, and it's way too overlooked. So yeah, so yeah, Project Diva was definitely a game I just put behind me, but it was very unintentional. I haven't. It's just that I haven't thought about that game in so long to where I just I just stopped playing it in general, especially with all the PC problems I have. Now, a person like me would probably try to get back at it by playing Future Tone, but I feel like even then I have none to like gain from playing that version. So yeah, I I do want to go back to playing this game someday, maybe when I get a better PC, but I will definitely make a promise that one of these weekends, maybe even this weekend if I'm not doing anything, one of these weekends I will stream Dreamy Theater. All three games that is. So for Dreamy Theater 1, I already streamed the DLC, which was the terrible edit ones. And that was like way back then. But yeah, I would love to revisit the games again. I don't know if I want to decide if I want to get the PSP versions to look at a authentic graphics, but yeah, I I hope somehow Project Diva comes back to me in a good way. I I really hope I can get a better PC this year, and if I don't, then I guess it really wasn't meant to be. And yeah, this this game has been with me a lot through like tough times. Even so, I really thought I lost out on my on Future Tone since a whole bunch of stuff came down to where I thought I lost my PS4, but fortunately I didn't lose it, so I'm glad that never happened. So yeah, I would like I would like to thank y'all for listening this long for my commentary slash rant. Even there was like a slight rant, not a lot. But yeah, for those of you who have known me on YouTube, I have uploaded Project Diva gameplay before, but I stopped, of course, because I was not into that game, unfortunately. So, yeah, I think I kind of talked about all the things I want to talk about with this game. My back my backstory with this game, why I stopped, will I go back, and what is what is like now. To add on to more to what is like now, to say the least, like nothing. It's just not the same as it was before. Like Project Diva lost its peak at like in terms of player base and all. I mean, there are still good people out there. I've seen a couple of people do things that even I can't do. I mean, I probably could, but for the most part, I'm very lazy. But yeah, it is nice to see that there's some relevance to this game. There are still good players out there. Even one that's been active for the longest I've ever watched him. So yeah, I so to end it off, I do love Project Diva, and I'm glad it has been a part of my life. As much as I try to get away from that game as much as possible now, to be honest, I feel like that it'll just keep coming back to me, and I have no complaints about that. I still love Project Diva. Like I said, I had initially planned to upload this, make this video yesterday night, but unfortunately, there something came up to where I didn't have time to do this at all. It would have been a good thing to do it yesterday because I was, I have seen that Stoic, who y'all of course may know from YouTube, had posted his score of intense voice extra at stream, a new percentage. I was I was definitely surprised to see that because I know he was trying to get that, and I was hoping he was trying to get the one he was looking for, but he really went over his limit with that, and I'm so proud of that achievement that you made. So, Stoic, if you're watching this, great job at what you do. You are the best Project Diva player I've ever met. So yeah, that's all I have for now. I have no idea if I forgot to talk about anything else. It probably would have been better if I outlined it, but I'm not that person. So, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you for whatever I want to talk about next. So, see ya.